Okay, I'd like to call to order the Monroe County Public Library Board of Trustees meeting for December 11th. If we could go around and introduce ourselves, and if you'd like to share what kind of text or media you are currently ingesting. Amy, will you start us off?
Oh my gosh, I forget about this. Can we start with Chris? I forget
Sure.
every meeting that we're doing this, and then I need to remember.
So I'm Chris Hall, and I am listening to The Lost Bookshop by Evie Woods.
I'm Greer Carson. I'm reading Arguably, which is a collection of essays by the late, great Christopher Hitchens. And we are playing Indiana Jones and the Great Circle on the Xbox.
I'm Jamie Burkhart. I am not currently reading anything, but I have a son who's just invested in the new Hogwarts Legacy game, and so I've just been watching.
I am Kari Essery, and I am reading The First Ladies. And it's fantastic about Eleanor Roosevelt and she was an NAACP lady that was very, very influential during the Roosevelt years with lots of hard work. It's an amazing book.
Okay, thanks for reversing. I'm Amy O'Shaughnessy, and I'm reading Sally Rooney's new book, Intermezzo.
Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda from last minutes from November 20th, the board meeting, the executive session, the monthly financial report, monthly bills for payment, the personnel report, and the board meeting calendar?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Nay, motion approved. And Greer is going to give us now the director's monthly report.
Okay, so November saw the highest number of unique Hoopla users so far in 2024. This is very likely a result of the recent Hoopla Flex changes, which were intended in part to expand access to more Hoopla patrons and to thereby increase the overall number of Hoopla users. So far that looks to be working. Our Circulation Services Department has maintained quick turnaround times for return carts, which means that patrons can expect to see recently returned items back on the shelves in as little as 48 hours and sometimes within just 24 hours. And just as a reminder to everybody, patrons can see that an item which may have been returned recently on a cart is available under recently returned, even if it's not on the shelf. In this case, they can ask a staff member who will then run back to the circ room and check for the item on the shelf, or rather the cart, and if for some reason they can't find it, they just place a hold, and usually that hold is satisfied within 24 hours. But 48 and certainly 24-hour turnaround time is fantastic for our circ services team. We held our 5th annual Teen Zombie Prom, A Night to Dismember, in early November. So yes, this is the 5th year in a row we've done that really great event. We opened a new story walk at RCA Park on Friday, November 15th. This is our 3rd story walk in the county. It was made possible by a grant from the City of Bloomington and a subsequent partnership between MCPL and the city's Parks and Rec Department. We held a small local media event in the form of a ribbon-cutting ceremony, and the children's librarian Reagan Zelaya, who had led the grant and partnership process, introduced all attendees to the new story, which is At the End of the Day by Liesl Detlefsen. So it was a good event. We sent 6 staff to the annual Indiana Library Federation Conference in November. And we completed our annual benefits open enrollment process just this week. This was the first time we've done this with our HRIS, our new HRIS, Paylocity. And if Becky doesn't mind me sharing, Paylocity told her the other day that we are one of only like 2 organizations they worked with that had 100% completion by the deadline. So good for all MCPL staff. We have been working with a new and additional HVAC contractor to implement a permanent preventive solution to the Southwest roof unit failure earlier this year. Admittedly, the lengthy insurance subrogation process has made it kind of difficult to find a contractor who's willing to work on this project. We do have someone who is now advising us on options. Currently, we are disconnecting the actuator from the louver, so if you recall, that was actually the point of failure that led to the flood in the first place. And we're doing this when temperatures get well below freezing. Once we have a quote from our new contractor as to a recommended long-term solution, we'll bring that quote to the board and discuss those options and talk about it from both an efficacy and a cost-benefit standpoint. And finally, our new public catalog launches next Tuesday. You all got a sneak peek at this back in September, I think, as we were finalizing some of the implementation details. We did run into some technical issues at the last minute, which is not unheard of, and it required resolution on Polaris's end before we were comfortable turning it on for the public. So we had a little bit of a delay, but those issues have now been resolved, and we have our marketing strategy and schedule in place, so we will be going live with that new public catalog that you all saw next Tuesday. As always, happy to answer any questions.
And how will it be accessed?
The same way, yeah. When
Website?
you land on the library splash page and you search in the search bar, it'll take you straight to Vega Discover.
Lovely.
So you won't notice any difference except the interface is so much better.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
I have a quick question about the connect and disconnect. So currently, we're just doing that manually by
Yes.
watching the temperature?
That's correct, yep.
Okay.
We watch the forecast. If it gets cold enough, Brian and his team go up on the roof and they disconnect the actuator so that
Is-
it remains 100% closed.
Is it
Yeah.
freezing point? Is that what we're,
Just to play it safe.
Okay.
Yeah, earlier in the year when the failure occurred, it was below zero, and it had happened, I think it was a 40-degree drop over a 48-hour period. And our understanding is that that was very likely the cause of the failure, but we don't want to take any chances. So if it gets a little below freezing, we're just going to disconnect the actuator anyway. But that's not a long-term solution, so. yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But good preventative measure for now.
Can't have it happen again.
That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Nope, okay. Next, we're going to hear from Becky Throckmorton for the contagious illness policy. Do we have a motion to approve this policy?
So moved. Second.
All right. So you might remember back in June, we did a temporary policy with the end of the COVID leave policy to test out a paid contagious illness benefit for those folks who work 15 to 18 hours. You may remember those folks don't have any current benefits, and so we wanted to afford them something in case they fall ill to encourage them to stay home and recover. As part of our ongoing effort to support employee health and safety in the workplace, we introduced the pilot program for the second half of 2024 to test it out. Over this period, we heard staff express appreciation for the benefit and the peace of mind that it provided, both for those staff members who might fall ill, but also for others knowing that if a coworker is ill, they're encouraged to stay home and keep that contagious illness out of the workplace. The pilot went very well. We had 4 of the 25 eligible staff use the benefit for a total of 52 hours during the pilot. We didn't have any concerns of misuse. And like I said, we had only positive feedback from staff and from the department manager as well. So we are proposing that we do a permanent benefit for these folks. So this would be a contagious illness benefit for folks who work less than 20 hours per week, would have 30 hours per calendar year of paid contagious illness after being employed for 30 days. This time is available for staff members who are experiencing symptoms of a contagious illness and are seeking a medical diagnosis or recovering from that contagious illness. This includes fever, cold, flu, strep, COVID, anything like that, and is available to encourage staying home to recover and prevent the spread of illness. Employees should notify their manager directly if they miss a work shift due to an illness and can request the contagious illness paid leave in the HRIS platform. A doctor's note may be requested if the employee's manager or HR if the absence exceeds 3 days or if there's a concern of misuse. And then employees will have the opportunity to make up missed time during the pay period or take unpaid leave if they do exhaust that or if they fall ill with something that is not contagious. So migraines, some other conditions that could not be passed from individual to individual are not covered under this contagious illness policy. Yeah.
So about how many hours does a part-time employee work? So how many hours per day would that generally be?
So they work a number of different shifts. We want to offer those folks as much flexibility as possible, but they typically work anywhere from 15 to 18 hours per week. So some of those folks may work 3-hour shifts, some may work 3 5-hour shifts. And so they have the ability to flex that. They can pick up an additional shift, they can move their time around. The manager of that department is fantastic at working with folks and making adjustments as they need.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I commend the library for doing this, and I think it's a great thing. I'm glad that you did a pilot and it went well. And yeah, I'm excited that the library continues to look out for employees and what will work best for them and for the functioning of the library too.
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Becky. Okay, next we're going to hear from Gary. Can I have a motion to approve the cancellation of old checks?
So moved. Second.
So this resolution is a step that we take at year end for the audit. And we go through and we look at our outstanding checks. And if we have any that are going to be over 2 years old at the end of the year, then we void those. And so we have one this time, $25. And are there any questions?
I think we can handle 25
Is it
dollars.
standard practice to call the organization that has the outstanding check or no?
No.
Okay. Doesn't matter either way, I'm just curious.
25
Okay.
dollars. It's okay.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. And Gary, now if we could have a motion to approve the approval of 2025 agreement with El Centro Communal Latino? Motion to approve?
Oh, so moved.
Second.
Gary, tell us more.
And this is another year-end annual agreement that we do. And all we have done with this El Centro agreement is update the dates. The amount is staying the same. Everything else in the agreement is staying the same.
Any questions?
No, on here, on the information, it just says, I'm assuming it's 2024/25, but they have, 20,245 for the
I
dates.
just noticed, it looks like these.
I'm assuming that 5 just means for next year.
It is tracking the edits, and it's displaying the edits. And so that should have been turned off probably before this was printed.
So understanding that this is 2025,
Yes.
all in favor, say aye.
I
Oh,
do have a
yeah.
question. I'm newer to the board,
Sure,
so
sure.
in reading through this, I wasn't able to discern whether El Centro has an office here. Can you provide a bit of an overview of what, I'm understanding what the services are, but like what's physically present and what the agreement, like what the overview is?
So the agreement includes allowing them to use a physical space in the library. It's been in different places over time.
Okay, it's here in the
It's
central branch.
here,
now.
and right
Okay.
now, it's in the Indiana room. If you go toward the back, we have 3 office doors. The
Okay.
one in the center, which is the larger space, is where El Centro is located. They
Okay.
have their hours posted there, contact information, and so on. And when they do their meetings with families and individuals, they do it pretty much just in that space.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I thought I understood that, but I
Yeah.
didn't want to approve this without
Of course.
knowing whether it was
Of
in
course.
this building or if it was elsewhere. So,
Yeah.
thank you.
Sure, sure.
Any other questions? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, motion to approve the approval of the fee schedule.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Josh Wolf is here to tell us more.
Hi, thank you. I'm actually going to pass around a slightly updated version. It's on 104 in your packet, but the state library announced their new plaque rates yesterday. So we have the 2024 listed, the 2025 has a slight increase. I'll pass that around. While we were looking at it, there were 2 other items that we wanted to update as well, and I'll walk you through that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll skip down to the plaque cards first, because that's sort of the reason we had the big change here. The state library sets the plaque fee once a year. It's been static for the last couple of years at $65. This year they made it $70. This is something we're required by state code to do. If you have a library card from any other library system in Indiana, you can pay this fee and get a library card at any other system in Indiana. So we're required to do that. We collect these fees, send them back to the state every year. While we were looking at that, we looked down lower at the subscription card, non-resident for MCPL access. This is something we do for folks who live in Indiana but may not live in a district that actually has a library, so they can't bring us their home library card and qualify for a plaque card. Or if they're out of state, if they move or retire or leave, but they still want to get an MCPL card. That amount was at 65 before. That calculus is supposed to happen based on per capita for the community, so Gary ran those numbers, and the new number for that one will be $80, which is unfortunately more than the plaque fee, but it's still something we want to keep doing. The third update is the one higher up at the top. I hope you guys can read my handwriting. We have a $25 per hour fee for people who reserve our meeting room spaces if there are any damages or additional cleanup fees that are incurred. And the increase in that is simply based on cost of wages that as time has gone up. We haven't raised that, to my knowledge, in several years. Everything else is pretty much stays the same, is the same as it was in 2024. I will draw your attention briefly to the top, the Care Fee Option Program, just because hopefully in the first quarter of next year, we'll be bringing you an update to our checkout policy, which will include a new name for the Care Fee Option Program, which apparently nobody likes saying.
Can you remind me what the Care Fee Option Program is?
Oh, certainly, yes. Before it was called the Read It Off Program. We changed the name because we began realizing that the thrust of it is if your card is blocked for whatever reason, and many times it's children whose cards were blocked because of something, or older people whose cards became blocked when they were children, you can sign up for this program, check something out. We'll unblock your card. You can only check one item out at a time, but as you bring that back, $10 is taken off of your fee. And so you develop good circulation habits, you work your fee down if you don't have the resources to pay it off. And we couldn't call it Read It Off anymore because we began counting any sort of media that we circulate.
So it's kind of Return It Off.
Yeah, there's a new name I think that we voted on, and it eludes me now, but hopefully we'll be bringing that to you by February at the latest. Yeah.
I just want to really quickly talk about the subscription card for non-residents and just say what a great thing I think it is our public library does that. My grandpa is 95, and we bought him an iPad a couple years ago, and I got him this card. And he was so incredibly thankful to have access to digital resources. I just think it's a really great thing that our community does.
Oh,
So-
that is an awesome story. Thank you, Jamie.
Can I ask a question about that? If somebody has a subscription card for MCPL access only, do they not then have access to the statewide network of books or or Libby, let's say? Is there a way that they, if you only have that subscription card, do you not also then reach the other resources? Can you
Correct,
explain that?
yes. That's a great question, because like for Libby, for instance, if you have a subscription card, you can have an MCPL Libby account, and you have access to the consortium of Indiana Digital Media through us. If you have a plaque card, you could essentially get library cards in different systems all over and have all of their allotments as well, because you'd have functional cards in their systems.
Okay, you'd have access to their physical resources with the plaque card.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
But the subscription card gets non-residents access to physical materials in the MCPL library, as well as Libby access, which does give them access to the whole Indiana network of.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, it's a fully functional card.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, great,
Yeah,
thank you.
thanks. Good question.
Any other questions?
Can a resident from they don't need to live in Indiana, so could have residents outside the US or outside of Indiana and just living here for a bit, or don't live here?
Yeah.
And want to have that resource?
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice.
Yeah, you could be anywhere.
Great,
Yeah,
thanks.
Yeah, it's pretty fantastic.
thank you.
All in favor? of
Aye.
approval?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, next up, can I get a motion to approve the 2025 board meeting calendar?
So moved.
Second.
And we're going to hear from Becky.
All right. So you should have the 2025 board calendar in front of you. The couple of things I wanted to draw attention to is that we have 2 meetings that are out of the regular schedule. So that's the March meeting is 1 week late, and then the December meeting is 1 week early. Those are adjusted for spring break and winter holiday. And then we have 2 meetings that are outside of the downtown branch. So we have an Ellettsville meeting and a Southwest to visit all of the branches. Questions?
No, I just like having it at the Southwest because I can find a parking spot.
All in favor to approve? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Becky, next, can I get a motion to approve the resolution to adopt the 2025 holiday closing schedule?
So moved.
Second.
All right. So on page 105 of the packet, you'll find the holiday closing schedule. This is just updated for 2025, so we have not added any new holidays or anything like that. And then the resolution to adopt. Whereas it's been determined that it is now necessary to adopt the closing schedule for the 2025 calendar year, and whereas the board wishes to approve the 2025 closing schedule, now therefore the board adopts the 2025 closing schedule presented to the Monroe County Public Library Board, read in full and adopted on this 11th day of December by the following yea and nay votes.
Any questions? All in favor of approving?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
And I'll
Becky?
pass this around.
Yep, sorry to keep you on board here, Becky. Can I get a motion to approve, to adopt the 2025 pay schedule? Wage schedule, annual pay increases.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Try not to mix up all my papers. So on page 107 of the board packet, you will find the pay date schedule. So this is just carried forward for 2025. Our pay periods do run Monday through the following Sunday, and we do pay out every other Friday. So you can see those dates there. And then our 2025 wage and salary schedule is on the next page. This is from the compensation study that we did back in 2023 with NFP. We are not proposing any changes to those wage rates or anything like that. So it's just the update of the calendar year. And then we have the wage increase, which is 80 cents or 3% incrementally per hour, whichever is greater. This is the same increase that we did last year. So now I'll read this whole lengthy thing. The resolution to adopt the 2025 pay schedule, wage and salary schedule, and annual increases. Whereas it has been determined by the board that it is now necessary to adopt the pay schedule, wage and salary schedule for 2025 fiscal year, and compensation increases for all staff members. Whereas the board wishes to provide the cost of living increases in alignment with the current wage and salary schedule in order to maintain market competitiveness. Now, therefore, the board adopts the 2025 pay schedule, wage and salary schedule, and associated individual wage increase of 80 cents or 3% incremental increase per hour, whichever is higher, subject to the wage and salary schedule maximums. This applies to all employed at the library as of December 16th, 2024. The wage increase will go into effect on the first payday of 2025, which falls on January 10th, and includes the pay period beginning December 16th of 2024, ending on December 29th of 2024.
Any questions before we vote?
Yeah, I did want to ask. So by the wage and salary schedule, if you have someone who's in a support role, let's say, and they're already at their market maximum of $20.19, how does the library treat that then with cost of, like, is that, by this reading, it's making me think that perhaps it's affected, the cost of living increase is affected by that? Can you explain that?
Yeah, so we worked with NFP on the wage schedule for maximums, and then we look every year when we do increases to make sure that folks still get their annual increase, and then we look to make sure that we adjust those pay schedules so that we don't get really far out of whack where somebody is getting paid more than that maximum.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
Here's this one to sign.
Can I get a motion to hear resolution to renew the PERF for 2025?
So moved.
Second.
All right. So I won't read you this whole document because it's very lengthy. PERF is the Public Employee Retirement Fund. So this is a retirement fund that the library contributes. Currently, we do the employer and the employee portion. So the employer portion is 11.2% of someone's annual or regular pay, and then the employee portion is 3%. So it's 14.2% total. The only thing that we're doing on this is just the update. So PERF offers two plans. We have a My Choice plan and a hybrid plan. The My Choice plan has a normal and a supplemental percentage. They change those slightly every year on a schedule, and so all we're doing is just approving that. And that is on Section 5 of this agreement, or on this resolution. So in 2024, it was a 4.4% normal charge and a 6.8% supplemental. For 2025, it's a 4.2% normal and a 7% supplemental. So that's the only change that's on there. Any questions?
This is just curiosity. When is a employee eligible to get their PERF?
So when can they start getting PERF benefits?
Yeah.
So their retirement, when they reach retirement age, they're eligible to start withdrawing those. Because we do offer two plans. There's one that has like a pension, as well as a deferred contribution, where you can put money aside. And then the other plan works more like a traditional 401k, 403b, where that money just goes in and becomes, invested.
Okay, and does the person have to have worked here so long to be in it, or?
Yeah, so PERF has their own requirements. So each of those plans have different requirements for how long you need to be here to be vested, and there's a vesting schedule. So one of the plans has a 5-year vesting, and the other is a 10-year vesting.
So it's not like teachers where you have to reach a rule of 85 or anything, you can retire anytime? Or?
They have some rules in there that are part of the plan, and depending on which plan somebody's elected, I have all the information if you want to see it on how it works.
Okay, just
but
curious,
yeah.
thank you.
And the other question I have is, do we offer Roth?
So we offer a 403b in addition to what we have here, because we do max out the contribution on the employer side. So if staff want to contribute themselves, we do have a 403b that's set up
But
that
it would
folks.
be for the Roth as well, not just a regular.
So we just have the 403b
Okay.
in addition to PERF.
Okay.
Yeah.
All in favor of the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
I put the page for you guys to sign on the front. The rest of it's paper clipped behind.
Okay. Motion to approve the remote and flexible work policy.
So moved.
Second.
All right. So I also will not redo this whole remote and flexible work schedule or flexible work policy, but we are looking at a pilot program for this. So just a little bit of history, because I don't think we've talked about it in a while. The 2023 compensation study that we did with NFP, they met with all of our staff without management in the room to ask them some questions and gather feedback on what benefits folks wanted to see, and ask them some questions, and then also met with our management team. The staff feedback was that they really wanted to see a remote work benefit and a remote work policy. So since 2022 into 2023, we have been looking at really what do our staff want. So we did a staff survey to gather some more information and understand what they were actually asking for in this. We've looked at industry policies as well as peers to see what other public libraries are doing, what other government agencies are doing. And then we've also looked at the MCPL culture to decide what's going to make the most sense for us and continue to cultivate the culture that we want here at the library, while also offering the benefit and retention and attracting qualified folks from outside of the library. So we are proposing this. I won't read everything, but just some highlights. We are looking at doing no more than 20% of someone's non-public facing work could be remote. There are a list of tasks that would be appropriate for remote work. So this would be anything like training, working on a project that requires focus, planning, emails, those kinds of things, and would not be appropriate for any sort of public-facing patron tasks, including chat support, anything like that. Also indicating that it is not intended to replace childcare, pet care, personal or sick leave. We want to make sure that we continue to afford folks the ability to take time off and not be trying to balance work and vacation or recovering from an illness. And then we've also noted in here that staff working remotely are expected to be on call and available to come in within 60 minutes if they're needed. So if there's an emergency or a work-based need for them to come on site, they do need to be available to be at their normal workstation within 60 minutes. And then we have some differences in here for a one-off request versus an ongoing. So if someone wants to work remote once a week or once every other week, we do have some requirements written in here for that as well, and the process for how to request that. So happy to answer any other questions that you have, and I know it's kind of a lengthy document.
So if someone wants to work at home, they have to have their own computer at home. We're not providing them a computer to take home, is that correct?
So we do provide laptops.
Oh, okay.
And so if a staff member doesn't have a laptop as their primary workstation, we do have laptops that are available.
Okay.
So they would not have to provide the laptop, but they would be responsible for Wi-Fi and
Okay.
those kinds of other expenses that you have with that. If you want a second monitor.
That's good.
I did notice that, and I have a question about that. Is that a laptop that then they would borrow from the library for that purpose, or are they issued to staff?
So we have a number of staff who have been issued laptops. We have a handful of staff who still have like a desktop computer, either preference or that's just what works best for that workstation. If someone needs a laptop and they have not been issued one, we do have laptops that can be checked out. And so basically you would book the laptop and reserve it, or you could work with our IT department to get a laptop to have it available for that day.
Okay, thank you.
I would imagine most people who would work with their supervisor for this probably are staff who have a laptop issued to them because they already are, potentially working from a separate space on occasion. It's not somebody who has like a public-facing, role that has a desktop required.
Yeah. I'm actually not sure. Do you know what staff would have a desktop versus a laptop?
Yeah, so we have some departments in particular that sort of fall out of traditional library services like IT or finance or communications marketing, where a lot of those people do have desktop setups in the workplace that would wind up needing a laptop. Some of those folks already have a laptop because, like you were suggesting, some of the nature of their work is already mobile. And as Becky said, for the folks who may not, we have surplus laptops in IT that we can give to people if they want to do a regular, up to 20% of their work at home kind of thing. So, yeah, one of the things that we looked really hard at with this policy and in reviewing other example policies as well is like how far should we go in taking care of the technology setups for folks who are going to work at home if this is not going to be like a fully fledged, you are working at home 50% or more of your work. And so this is a pretty conservative approach, I would say, to saying you can work at home depending on your position, your performance, all of those criteria that we list here. And we're going to give you a laptop for it, but the rest of it is basically for you to set up on your own.
This is just a trial, actually.
This is a pilot because this is so new for us, not only the tech setup and the responsibility piece, but also the percentage of time we allow people to work at home, what positions qualify, how well it works for the individuals in their department workflows, but also that cultural piece that Becky referenced is, I think we said back when we were doing the compensation study quite openly, like that's our number one focus with this because we've never had anything like it. And we have such a strong culture here that we don't want a policy like this to have anything like a corrosive effect We don't think that it will, but we'd rather give ourselves a full year to try this out and then maybe make some adjustments at the end of next year before we adopt it more formally.
Can one of you talk about, I had a question about the renewal every 3 months. Seems kind of a short period of time, so I'm curious if you can talk about the rationale behind that period, and also behind the stipulation that staff should be able to come in within 60 minutes. I imagine that's to promote or to prevent folks who would say, oh, I'm traveling to North Carolina, but I'll be working remotely.
Yeah.
In some cases that would work, but it sounds like that's not something that the library wants to promote and would prefer for people to take PTO for that. So
For a
if you
couple of
can explain
reasons,
some
yeah.
rationale behind those two things, I'd be interested
Sure.
to know.
I'll just, if you want to take the second piece, I'll
Yeah.
take the first piece.
Yeah.
Along with the other pilot components of this, we want to be very careful about how we're allowing for remote work, and we want to keep an eye on how well it's working and what the trends are. And so every 3 months seems like a reasonable cadence for doing that. That might be something we change after a year of a pilot. If we feel comfortable with it, then we may say we'll look at it every 6 months or once a year. But starting out, we want to be very careful and kind of hold tight reins, as it were. The other piece, though, like the 60-minute return to work, I know from a public services staff perspective, that is all about availability to cover shifts as needed. We have call-ins, we have things come up where we can't get as many people working on the desk as we need, and a public services manager needs to be able to say, hey, I know you're scheduled to work from home today, we really need you on site. Can you get here? And 60 minutes seems like a reasonable amount of time. But there was another piece that had to do with taxes and working within the state that you had discovered.
Yeah. So we wanted to make sure that folks are working remote within the state that we employ them in, just so that we don't have any potential gray areas for folks working in other states that have different employment laws or other tax implications. So we just didn't want to cross into that, and just wanted to be very clear on, we do expect you to be working from the state of Indiana, and I don't think you can cross the state line in 60 minutes, so I think we're good there.
Yeah, nice. I will say, as somebody who supervises a larger team, having a lot of the remote work renewals and having people on different schedules is kind of taxing, both for the employee to keep track of and for the supervisor. So I'll be curious to
Yeah.
see how it works at the library. But yeah, it's kind of it's a short period of time, but you're right, if it's a limited thing that you're rolling out, it's nice to have tight reins on it.
Yeah, our motto with this has been, let's be super careful, go very slow, see how it works, because you can't do the opposite, have this really relaxed kind of policy and then say, you know what, it's not working, we're going to scale it back. So we'd rather do it the other way.
Yeah, cool,
Yeah.
thanks.
Yeah.
Oh, can you tell me what NFP is?
Oh, NFP is the consulting group that we use. I don't know what NFP stands for.
I don't either.
But it's like an employee resource sort of.
It's a consulting firm.
Group, okay.
They're a national benefit broker, I believe, and then
Gotcha.
they also do consulting. So it used to be First Person when we first started working with them. The company was First Person out of Indianapolis, and then they got acquired by NFP, which is just a national company.
Okay, they helped with the survey too, and then also they had one-on-one conversations with staff about broader workplace.
Yeah, so
Culture.
they met with smaller groups of staff. So we just kind of took an assortment of staff from different departments and tenures, and they met with them and did focus groups where they just talked to them. So we had a number of focus groups that didn't have managers involved. We had a manager specific, and then we also had an all-staff survey and several ways for folks to give their feedback.
Okay,
So,
great.
yeah.
Thanks.
And NFP has a lot of experience working with public libraries. So when we put those requests for bid out for consultants to help us with the compensation study, and we saw NFP's bid, they cited a lot of their work with peer libraries, so that made us feel a lot better about going with them. So they've been great. Yeah.
Any other questions for Becky before we vote? All in favor of approving the remote and flexible work policy, say aye. Aye. Okay, motion to approve the resolution to set the library director's salary.
Second.
I'm going to read from this. The Board of Trustees of the Monroe County Public Library, having conducted appropriate evaluation and considerations, hereby adopts the following resolution concerning the annual salary for the library director, Greer Carson. For the calendar year 2025, the annual salary for the library director, Greer Carson, shall be $115,000, $425.92, together with all appropriate benefits consistent with the position. Any questions or comments? All in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And next up, we're going to hear from Martin O'Neill from CATS about community access television services.
Hello, everybody. I'll try to take up as little of your time as I can. Okay, so yeah, it's 2024. Well, it's actually almost 2025, and here we are. Just a quick thing, 3 quick highlights of what we achieved this year. We added several new government meetings to the regular slate of productions. Those were the Ellettsville Redevelopment Commission, which is a new commission that they've started this year. We did the Vote Center Study Committee added this year. That's on the county side of all our productions. And then this year we started with the Mayor Thompson's Traveling Town Hall, which was a new initiative she started this year. So we covered all of those this year too. We also started, we started back up a Cat's Eye program, which is a man on the street interview program. And one of our VEs, new VEs actually, spearheaded that, Philomena Horvath. So it's probably going to go into a bit of hiatus now because it's cold and snowy outside and nobody wants to stop and talk when it's cold and snowy. So in the spring, we'll pick that back up again. An exciting development for me because it's taken a long time to get here. Almost as we speak, there are new studio lights been putting out both our studios, which we're very excited about. They should finish up the install tomorrow, and then Friday we'll have the commissionings of those with some training and manufacturers check-in to make sure everything's good and installed correctly. But that's going to be great. That's going to be a lot easier on our power consumption. It's going to be a lot easier on the HVAC systems. They're LED lights. They generate virtually no heat. So while it's running full blast, you can put your hands on it and move it around. And so that's going to be great. And it gives us a lot more flexibility in terms of the programs we can do there in both those studios. We always kind of like to do something at the end of the year where we look at the numbers of what we did last year versus what we did this year. So for 2023, we actually produced 722 programs. That's government meetings and what we call library programs, which are programs that we put on our Channel 3 library channel. 2024, so far in 2024, we've done 747 productions. That does not include December, where we estimate we could have another 40 or 50 programs added. So so every year the numbers just keep going up. This is a breakdown of 23 versus 24 per month. I won't go into great detail here, but we like to kind of do this because we just like to see how things are going, what months are busy, what ones are not. It's pretty obvious June, July is our lowest months. But one of the things that shocked us this month was in October of this month, we did 84 productions, and that's unheard of. We've never, like last year we came close, but that's the largest monthly programs I have ever seen in almost 30 years working here.
Because of the upcoming election?
Yes, partly. Partly was the election. There was also things like Lotus are usually at the end of September. This year it was early October. And we had some, like the Early Childhood Conditions Summit that also happened in October. And that's a whole day of recording and many hours of stuff there too. So there were a few other things in there that were kind of different. So, but for us, it's a staggering number. I remember when I started, if we did 35 productions in a month, we thought we were just rocking, you know.
Did you feel cramped when you did all that?
So that's amazing. And this is just a quick breakdown just for funds look at. This is our individual funding partners. This is City of Bloomington in blue, Monroe County's in green there. Ellettsville is the sort of thin gray bars. And then the orange is library programs. So that's stuff that we produce for members of the public that goes on our library channel. So we just like to look at those, and it's sometimes helpful to look at them in a sort of visual form just to get a sense of where we're going. So we're actually very, very happy with this year. We've done more productions than we've ever done, and nobody's going crazy, which is great, you know. It's brilliant. So that's pretty much my numbers here. These are just a few examples of programs that we did during 2024. But I'd like to send a great thank you to all our videographers and editors who've done so much great work over this year. You're talking many hundreds of hours of programs that they've made, and they do it with a smile on their face for the most part, which is great. Many thanks to Adam Stillwell, our CAT's assistant manager, for another amazing year that we could not get through without him. He's brilliant. Mike Adams is one of our VEs. He did a lot of work on this, putting all our numbers together, and that was great. And last but not least, many thanks to Greer for some fabulous leadership this year when we really needed it. And yeah, thank you, sir. And with that, I'll answer any questions.
I do have a question. Quite some time ago, we talked about the digitization project and moving things to AWS. And I just wondered, where is that? How's that project going? Completed?
It's moving along slowly. It's not completed. That won't be completed for another maybe 10 years, really. I mean, we have 30,000 programs in the collections that need to be converted, but it's going.
Work in progress.
Yeah. So one of the things that we've been working on to get to achieve that is a new database, because it's one thing just digitizing all these programs and putting them on hard drives and even putting them on the server, but then how do you keep track of what you've done? You know? So we've been working on that with a software developer, and we are almost there. Part of that is also entwined with our automation system. So one of the things we do is when a program is created in the field government meetings, when it comes back and they clean it up and then they send it to the server, then it automatically has to get 3 or 4 different versions of it made, one for the web, one for playback on our playback system, one for deep storage, and one for local storage that we keep. And all that is still connected to our database system, because at that point they all need to be entered into the database and all those other things. So it's been a slow process of getting all that done and making sure it works right. But we are almost there. And then the next stage is then really getting in to do all that stuff. But we are working on it. I think we've done several thousand now. So, but one of the next phases of that too is getting a public-facing database that they can easily search through and request, or just maybe in some of our very old programs, they might have some information that we don't about who these people are, you know. So that's kind of exciting.
It's a big project.
Yeah, it's big though. It's big. I mean, but it's going to be great for the community. We're really, really excited about it.
Thank you.
Can you highlight a couple of the patron programs? So, for example, what are some things that you have helped community members to produce here in the library this year? And can you talk a little bit about what the process looks like for them to create something, perhaps have it edited, finalized here, and then be available to the public to watch somewhere? What's that look like?
The person who really answered that is sitting right over there doing the audio for the meeting. This is Adam Stillman.
Hi.
What do you got?
I don't know if you can hear me. Our greatest producer is a guy by the name of Lennon Beasley, and it's no exaggeration. To date, he's produced over 10,000 programs, and he's kind of the most consistent producer that we have, and his is kind of his own thing, where he works in the level up space, and he'll do shooting outside of here, he'll do editing here, and then he brings us his digital files. He used to do a lot of that in CATS, but now he does a lot of that in level up. And then we don't have any regular shows that we produce, but I would say that the thing that we pride ourselves the most on is when people want us to cover something, is coordinating with them and working with them to give them the best coverage they can, whether that's a seminar where there might be breakout sessions and we need to have a crew that's a little more nimble, or just lots of cameras for Lotus, that sort of thing. But yeah, each year is a new adventure, and this was a great one.
All right, nice. Where would people watch? You said Leonard?
I'm sorry, Lennon Beasley.
Lennon. So is his stuff then on YouTube, and does Katz put it there? Where are his followers accessing his material that he produces here? Or is it just released to him and then that's on him to distribute?
Well, we play his content on the public channel, which is different than the library channel.
Okay.
It's the last channel that we're not streaming on our website.
Okay.
That's something that we hope to do next year too,
Yeah.
is to actually stream that channel. And then he produced some content here at the library where he reserves a room, does a performance. That makes it onto our library channel, so that's on our website and available. And then he also
And both of those are digital channels only?
Well, we have our 4 main channels: city government, county government, the library channel, which is the community events channel,
Yeah.
and then the public channel, which is content donated or produced by a member of the public. So that's
Okay.
where his content would fall. They kind of bleed together historically, and there's less content produced by members of the public these days, and we're doing more in the community, I would say, compared to the past. But his content is available on sometimes on our channel, and otherwise he's on Bandcamp, etc. And he's not the only one producing, but he's definitely the stalwart producer who consistently produces hundreds of programs a year, which is a thing to behold. But,
Yeah.
we're hoping with the studio lights and some initiatives in the department itself to kind of reinvigorate people checking out cameras, using our cameras to produce things like podcasts and things like that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, yeah. One of our initiatives that we hope to get going is our smaller studio, is setting it up as more of a sort of podcasting studio, where we make it easy for people to come in and do their own thing, where they don't have to run cameras, they don't have to do audio. We have someone there who can do that for them. Because I know for some people that's a bit of a hurdle. So we're hoping with the new lights, we're going to start to look at furniture and all sorts of things that kit that out and see how it's going to work out. But we, just so you know, we do put our programs on YouTube also. One of the reasons we do that is for the closed captioning portion of it. There's an awful lot of community interest in us doing closed caption that we would love to do, particularly live. And I don't know why, but for some reason, even though you can go on Zoom and you can have live captions, when it comes to putting them on our channels, try to find an affordable solution to that has been impossible. And we've worked with.
Are you required to do it?
We're not.
The public is interested in it, but the Katz is not required to do it. by
We're
law.
not a station
Okay.
of our size and thing. We're not actually required to do it.
Okay.
And you know, there are. I forget the name of the Indiana law, but there was a law that was passed that said there has to be some form of closed captioning, and that's one of the reasons why we put them on YouTube. Now, we can't do the closed captions live, but they work very well.
Yeah.
But we've even worked with IU Radio and TV to see if we could find a solution. Then they thought, yeah, we'll find you something, and then they come back and said, nah, we got nothing.
Yeah.
You know. So, yeah.
Cool, thank you. I did want to say, too, that I have recommended to folks who want to attend a meeting but can't go in person, you can watch it on Katz, and several people have said, what's Katz? So it is something that, like, I do feel like the public library is a great resource for people who are moving here, new to the community, and in any ways that the library's marketing can include in all the things that they're doing, like, hey, this is public access to, a room that you are, but as a member of the public, allowed to be in, but might not be able to physically be present. It's a real service, and I would love to see it included perhaps in some more library materials if there are things created for, like, stuff you need to know when you need to, move to Bloomington, if you want to request that Katz be there, or if you need to want to be at a meeting but you're holding a baby. Here are ways that you can participate as a citizen. I think it's kind of a tricky thing to explain, and I work at WFI and WTIU, so I know some of the the engineering hurdles.
Right.
I'm not an engineer.
None of us are.
But like it's a tricky time to be working in, like everybody has a camera in their pocket, but that's not necessarily the solution that is needed for a lot of these things. So for a lot of folks figuring out like how to access the information and to understand why something like CATS is a vital resource for the community, I think is a great story for the library writ large to try and tell too.
Yeah, great. Well, just one last thing on the YouTube. If anyone is looking it up on YouTube, type in Community Access Television Services. If you type in CATS, it's a whole different world.
Good point.
So, it's one of the unfortunate parts of our name, actually, really.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
sure, thanks.
Thank you. Any public comment? Anybody online? No? Okay. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll second.